Good morning. I'm John Ludlow, CEO of Airmic, and today I'm joined with Steve McGill, the founder and CEO of McGill and Partners, the new broker in the City of London. So by way of introduction for our guest today, Steve's got more than 40 years experience in the market. His most recent roles have been with JLT as CEO, and then he moved to Aon, where he became Group President of Aon PLC. He was responsible for both Aon's worldwide insurance and their reinsurance business. Steve, welcome to our Airmic Fireside Chat, and we're delighted to have McGill and Partners as our most recent associate partner with Airmic. So thank you very much for that. But let's start by, can you tell me a little bit more about McGill and Partners and how your first year of trading's gone?
Sure, John, and first of all, thank you for inviting me to participate with you in this fireside chat, and we're absolutely thrilled to be a new member and supporter of Airmic, and we're excited about what you and the team do on behalf of risk managers here in the UK at a very interesting time, at a time of really profound change and at a time of pretty profound challenges. You know, when I sort of think about McGill and Partners, and you mentioned our first year of trading, what I'd say, if I may, is just take you through a little bit of the background on the journey, because it was 24th of May last year was when we concluded negotiations with Warburg Pincus to provide very substantial funding to support the leadership and management in building a truly unique and distinctive business, British-based business, but a business that has significant global ambitions. And really, when I think about last year, 2019, there was a huge amount of work that was done once we got the funding in place to really think about, office accommodation. By the way, I'm here in London in one of our two offices. I'm in the Chubb building on the first floor in Leadenhall Street. Our other office is on the 8th floor in Lloyd's of London, first ever broker in history to be headquartered in Lloyd's. But we basically had to work out our office accommodation, build out all the infrastructure, start recruiting talent, go through all the regulatory processes that are critically important as you look at the business. And effectively, we didn't really start taking on clients until the sort of second half of last year, and certainly it was the last quarter when it was beginning to ramp up. So I consider 2019 going into this year as, if you like, John, a sort of soft launch, and 2020 going into 2021 as our first full year of trading. And I have to say, it has been incredibly exciting. But the challenges were not challenges we or anybody else expected, as we, in March of this year, suddenly went into lockdown. And what I would say is, when I looked at the situation going into lockdown mid-March of this year, we'd already recruited 160 colleagues. We had well over 100, in fact, currently we've got about 135 pretty significant clients on board. In the time we've been in lockdown, we've actually, our hiring rate has continued to accelerate at a pace. So we've got 235 colleagues in the firm. And I'm delighted to say that business activity, which frankly, John, I thought, being a new business, being a startup, I thought the challenges for us would be more profound in this COVID environment. and I felt that we'd be pressing the pause button and restarting in 2021. It's been the complete reverse. The level of business activity in the second quarter this year and in the third quarter has been very substantial. We've been really busy actively serving clients from all over the world, and our conversion rates on client opportunities has been incredibly high. So it's been a challenging environment, but it's been an exciting environment for McGill and Partners. And the final thing I'd just say on this initial commentary is, thank goodness we invested in cutting edge technology. Everything we do is cloud based. We operate trading in the market through the Whitespace platform and also PPL. So when our 160 colleagues suddenly had to go remote, we actually could operate seamlessly and immediately working in a remote environment. And we were fortunate that we didn't have any legacy systems. And in fact, at the 1st of April, we transacted the largest and most complex placement that at the time had ever been undertaken on the Whitespace trading platform.
Well done. I think that says a lot about the quality of your people and also just how hostile the market is. So I think that's showing some agility in your ability already. So well done. But I think a big question is, sort of what's the vision for McGill and Partners, and what's going to make you different to the other brokers out there?
Great question. And the vision really came, John, from talking to clients, talking to colleagues, talking to carriers in the 2 years that I was out from Aon after having had a wonderful 12-year career there. And I left in end of January 2017. And as I referenced, we 2 and a bit years later in May of 2019, that's when we got the financing. In that 2-year time span, I was looking at, what opportunities there were in the market. Actually, both for me personally, it was looking at opportunities within the insurance world and actually outside the insurance world. But I pretty quickly gravitated onto feeling that there was a real gap in the market that was developing. And it was developing partly driven by the consolidation that had gone on in the industry over decades. And, the fashionable approach of the broking fraternity to buy up, company after company, some of it driven by PE, some of it driven by strategic acquisitions. But over time, if you look back in the history books, and you kindly referenced, my time in the industry of around 40 years, but if you go back to those earlier days, and you think about Airmic clients, and certainly clients that are clients with complex and specialist needs, the choice for clients in those days, going back in time, was pretty extensive. You had a lot of really world-class insurance and reinsurance broking firms. Clients could go to, a Cedric Forbes, Reed Stenhouse in the UK, an A&A, a Johnson and Higgins, a Marsh and McLennan. In the States, you've got the Frank B. Halls, you had the Caroon and Blacks. You've got a whole list of very effective firms that were proud to be insurance and reinsurance brokers, serving, the needs of all clients. And then over time, as we know, the consolidation activity reduced client choice. And as we were sort of looking at the landscape, as I was looking at the landscape in 2017 and 2018 and doing the planning and talking to clients, and I talked to, your predecessor, Julia Graham at Airmic, was one of our case studies of, what was the client need looking like. And we talked to a whole cross section of clients across the world. One of the overriding concerns was a lack of choice, obviously, driven by consolidation. And then there was also a reflection that some of the big firms, and these are obviously the Aon and the Marsh & McLennans and the Willises, they'd actually, and three, I might add, hugely successful, impressive firms, but they had morphed over time from insurance and reinsurance brokers to global professional service firms, and that's how they described themselves. And so the array of services they can provide for a client is really impressive. But when I was sort of looking at this and talking to clients and carriers, and also talking to colleagues in the market, broking colleagues, I actually came to the conclusion that there was an opportunity for a firm to be built to go narrow and deep around deal making and structuring of the most effective and efficient insurance and reinsurance programs in the market, practitioner-led firm, and with an acquisition strategy that was ambitious and bold, but it was not an acquisition of companies, it was an acquisition of talent. And at the end of the day, the assets of an insurance broking firm are the people that are in it. And our philosophy is, if we can build a specialist global boutique, practitioner-led, deep technical expertise that really intimately understands the insurance and reinsurance markets and has very strong relationships with carriers and or with clients, there is a business proposition there that would really resonate with clients. And I might add, John, that this research was done before Marsh announced the acquisition of JLT on the 18th of September 2018. And it was also done, obviously, and we were launched. But of course, now you've got Aon announced the acquisition on the 9th of March this year of Willis, which is looking to complete in the first half of next year. And so the sort of interest level for a boutique specialty firm has gone up dramatically. And what I would say in just adding to this is, first of all, McGill and Partners did not want to just be a smaller version of an Aon, Marsh and Willis. We did not want to be a traditional wholesale broker, of which there are some very high quality wholesale brokers, both in London and in the US market. And we looked at the landscape as a reference point. In the investment banking world, we looked at an adjacent landscape in financial services. And if you looked at that landscape and looked at it over time, what happened in terms of the trend was you had three very impressive global firms in Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan Chase being really world-class global investment banks. And then you had boutique, and actually what you'd call today super boutique firms that went narrow and deep around M&A expertise and built significant business. And Evercore is one example of a boutique, super boutique investment bank that actually pursued a talent acquisition strategy, built their business around deep specialization, not trying to be all things to all people. And boutiques over time in the investment banking world have now taken a 36% market share off the what is the big three. And I certainly hope that in building a British-based business that's going global, it's going to have very strong transatlantic links through New York, but also going internationally. I actually hope we can be a catalyst for positive change in the market in London, but I hope we can really replicate what happened in the investment banking world and be the start of a trend where other boutiques start developing as competitors to McGill and Partners. We build a business which actually is able to give clients the choice that they need when they're thinking about structuring their insurance and reinsurance programs. So sorry
Absolutely.
for the lengthy explanation, but there's been a lot of work and planning involved in this, and we're not just another broker that's appeared on the horizon without without any differentiation, shall we say, in our approach and philosophy.
So you see yourselves working with other brokers, in a global program where you're at the design hub of it, and clients would be using brokers with other strengths to possibly service their accounts and the like. Is that how you see it?
We're already seeing that right now as a number of options, but we're working complementary with other brokers. In some cases, clients are working with us entirely. It depends upon the nature of the program. We've just landed a very significant multinational client out of Canada literally 3 weeks ago, and in that case, our remit is, and this client are in about 15 different geographies, and our remit there is to take over the entire program and on behalf of the client appoint local brokers to provide local servicing. But we're the sort of broker that's coordinating all of that, but being primarily responsible for negotiating the transaction with the world markets.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So it's a team really of brokers led and coordinated by yourselves for the client, with deep expertise in the most dynamic market in the world. That makes loads of sense, I think.
I think so, John, I'd also say we operate first of all, it's got to be the right colleagues, the right team, the right quality of talent. But we work as a single profit center, so there are no silos in McGill and Partners. And the other element is that a key part of our value proposition to our clients, which again came out of client research, and you know this because we've had this conversation, is one of the things we do is navigate the entire value chain all the way through insurance capital, reinsurance capital, retrocessional capital, alternative capital, and transparently make that available to corporate clients so that they see the full spectrum of opportunities. And so that means that, and this is why the not having P&Ls and silos is important. Some of the greatest results we're achieving is by the combination of our insurance broking colleagues working with our reinsurance broking colleagues to harness capacity in a way that hasn't typically been done in the marketplace. And as you say, this is a very dynamic and exciting market in which to work. And also we're excited about from here connecting with European markets, Bermuda, and the all-important US market.
Yeah, it's right on theme with Airmic Fest coming up, which is all about working together in a time of accelerated change. And I think you're a good exemplar of that, actually. So well done. Just returning to the sort of market generally, and the shape of the market feels like it's changing. Well, it's clearly changing. You're going to have two super huge brokers, and then the next tier being sort of, there's quite a gap down to the next tier, and then we maybe see more boutique brokers coming in. How do you see that all playing out, and what do you think it means for the broader market?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, first of all, you look at the options for corporate clients. to today. And, you know, literally in 2018, you had, when you think about corporate and specialist business, you had Marsh, Aon, Willis, and JLT, and a whole range of others. So I'm not dismissing the others, but I just use that as an example. And that universe has narrowed to 2. So client choice has profoundly changed as we go into 2021. And I think a lot of the other brokers are broking firms that don't specialize in the sort of complex specialist larger corporate sector. They do everything. They do SME business, middle market business, large corporate business. So I actually hope that we'll actually see an evolution, as I said, of boutiques that really focus on specialization, because there aren't enough of them, in my opinion, in the industry. There are some. You can look at, in reinsurance, for example, Tiger Risk are a very high quality reinsurance broker, born, I think, around the time of the financial crisis. But so I think there'll be that trend developing. I think some of the firms that are smaller versions of Marsh, Aon, and Willis will try and get into, will look to compete effectively against those big firms, and I think you'll see full service alternative propositions coming from, you know, the Gallaghers and the Locktons and so on. So that trend will occur. Talent disruption is going to be pretty profound in 2021 and beyond. I mean, you know, I think the numbers are something like, you know, 55,000 colleagues in Aon, 40-odd thousand colleagues in Willis, a combined workforce of 95,000. As we all know, bringing these 2 firms together, there's going to be you know, a significant amount of cost coming out of the combination of those firms to drive shareholder value. Well, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the cost is largely people, and as I said earlier on, the assets of the firm are the people that are in it. So I expect we'll have the biggest disruption of talent that we've ever seen in the industry as a result of the Aon Willis combination, following on from the Marsh JLT combination, which has still got a way to play out. And I think from a client standpoint, unfortunately, and we've seen this already, it's going to create quite a degree of frustration, I'd say, because service teams can be disrupted. If talent moves, clients, you know, often they want to stay, they want to respect the individuals, but they also want to respect the companies they work for. And, you know, and if the team that are put in to replace the existing team, some of those colleagues have worked for a very long time representing clients, and they're not up to standard, then it creates client dissatisfaction, and it results in, you know, clients making alternative choices. So I think the disruption with talent that we're going to see in the next couple of years is so profound. I think it's also going to have a major impact with clients and how clients think about their decisions, good or bad.
And another opportunity for yourselves. Yeah.
And I do feel it's an interesting opportunity for us, but I also just wanted to say, John, that we were compelled and convinced about this opportunity before Marsh bought JLT and before Aon bought Willis. So I think it's just been amplified. The other comment I would make is, you know, the carriers want to see alternative distribution channels as well. And so, you know, they certainly are keen to continue to work very closely with the major global players in the industry for all the right reasons. but the concentration risk for them, with their business being polarized around a smaller number of very big firms, is concerning, and that's why they want alternative channels. So the support that we're seeing from the carriers is phenomenal, and I think that again is going to amplify and play out as we go into 21 and 22.
Absolutely, and I think our members want choice as well. I mean, we want very good, brilliant firms, but we also need choice. And I think having niche players come in and do excellence, but within a narrow scope, is good for business. So thank you. One of the things I'd like to sort of do with Airmic Fest coming up now, there's going to be some big conversations and around the big themes, and it'd be good just to have a chat on and touch on some of those, if you don't mind. So, I mean, the obvious one to start with, and one that's sort of a tailwind for you at the moment, is the hardening market, and it's causing extreme anguish with many of the members, and particularly the distress around D&O. Only this morning, I had one of our senior members, emailing me saying, what are we doing and how are we talking to the market about the problems that they're facing? And we are, but let's do it now. How are you finding D&O?
Well, maybe if I, John, start with the market environment, and then I'll sort of narrow it down to the D&O discussion. But because I think both are very important. When you look at the way the market has evolved in the past, and when I sort of go back over sort of hard market cycles going back in time, it's normally been those hard market cycles have really been country specific. It's been driven out of, for example, particularly the US, and you look at 9/11, you look at Hurricane Andrew going back in in 92, for example, and then there might be earthquakes in Japan or something. But what tends to happen is you get a direct impact, and in the mid-80s, the casualty crisis in the US is another one. You get a very clear impact in the geography that is affected, and you get ripple effects going elsewhere around the world, which in many cases are quite manageable. The market of 2020 feels to me to be pretty unique. First of all, I would say there was a concern amongst insurers that prices generally needed to rise, and that was a sort of, I'd say, typically a global concern. But specifically, in the United States, for example, there's social inflation, which is resulting in litigation and awards on the sort of umbrella liability and primary liability, and actually D&O programs that were climbing at a significant rate. Tornadoes in the US used to be treated as a cat event like a hurricane, but tornadoes are now occurring with a frequency that you've never seen before. In fact, I think the last 18 months of hurricanes in the US, greater frequency and quantum of loss than in any previous 10-year period going back in history. You've got the hurricanes with an above average hurricane season expected in the US. So things were, beginning to tighten up, going into 2020. Underwriters were being thoughtful about how they price for risk and how they deployed capital. And that trend was beginning to go through globally, but in quite a structured manner, I would say. And then, of course, COVID has hit, and the knock-on effects and the implications of COVID on the insurance market are going to be felt for many years to come. So it's still difficult to know exactly what the picture looks like, but the quantum of loss, and you've got, leaders like John Neal, CEO of Lloyd's, and Evan Greenberg, CEO of Chubb, pretty much talking about underwriting losses of plus or minus $100 billion. And this is effectively making it the largest non-life loss in history. And the interesting dynamic here is it's global. It's pretty much affecting every geography. It's affecting every segment of business, from small customers all the way up to large customers. It's affecting every single industry. And so the impact on the insurance industry is that the hardening market is seemingly going to be a hardening market that is global as opposed to local. And we're seeing that trend really coming through in a pretty profound way. And when I say profound, it's because typically the expectation of carriers, especially in specialty insurance and reinsurance, is that they're looking at double-digit rate increases combined with capacity that they're deploying coming down. Now you get areas where it is even more profound, and you've mentioned D&O, and D&O is an area where the corrective action that the market are trying to put into effect for clients is in some cases very, very significant. And you're seeing, especially where there's perceived claims activity, premium increases of 50% plus not being uncommon, with limits coming down. You see sectors that are very challenged, like life sciences, aviation, retail, and leisure. The industry has seen the highest level of class action since 2001. And when you put all this together, liability generally and D&O specifically, the disconnect between what clients are expecting and what carriers are pricing, the disconnect runs a risk of being very substantial. And in some cases, 50% increases, you can actually add a naught onto it. It can be 500% increases. And I'm not surprised by the reaction, John, of some of your members, especially in this line of insurance. And what I would say is, first of all, we're fortunate that we have an incredibly strong team of D&O practitioners. So financial services, financial lines is one of our core specialties, and we've amassed incredible talent from particularly from some of the other big brokers that have come together, and from carriers. And we've got a really strong team of over 20 professionals that's in this sector, and we have been responding to some very challenging client situations. There was one very high profile major UK client that we took on with 3 weeks to go before the renewal, and put together a structured program that was much more competitive than the previous incumbent broker who'd had it for a very long time. And I'd say that the important thing here for Airmic members is prepare for the unexpected. Make sure you plan as early as you can with your renewal process. Wherever possible, try and get direct feedback from the underwriters. That's not being disrespectful of the brokers, but I think you need to look the underwriters in the eyes and either virtually, if you can't do it in person, to really get an honest view of what is going on, so there's no misunderstandings. And the other element I'd say is brokers need to be really creative in the way they think about how they structure the program to harness the capacity in the most efficient manner. And that's what I saw our team doing a phenomenal job on with this very high profile client in a very difficult sector with a very challenging renewal with little time to go. And if we'd have just taken the program and kind of gone down the same route as they'd been down before, we'd have got the same results from the market that everybody else would have got. But actually, our team stepped back and said, strategically, how do we think differently about this? How do we think differently about relayering of the program and repricing it? And how do we think differently about bringing on board new markets globally to achieve a result for the client that actually is really what they were looking for? So I think this market is challenging, dependent on the line of business. It's challenging to very challenging, and I think it's incumbent on Airmic members in terms of the clients to really make sure that they're understanding every step of the way what their broker is doing and how the underwriters are looking to respond on their program, so that they can minimize the surprises that may come down the track, because there are going to be and continue to be big surprises, not on the positive but on the negative.
Yes, I mean, the general consensus seems to be that with connected risks and a connected world that we've got now, that actually you end up with many more systemic risks. And you mentioned climate change, it's the whole climate system that's changing. But the way we communicate, so cyber risk is a systemic risk. And all of these systemic risks are really hard to price, and the models that the insurers have been using over the years just aren't working anymore. They can't defend their own balance sheets, and therefore they won't deploy the capital, and therefore the capital is artificially restricted and the prices goes up. So somehow we need to work out a way of quantifying and helping insurers model their risks again, so that they can deploy the capital and the whole market unlocks. I think it's really interesting. So it's not just D&O though. I mean, what about the other specialty lines, and how do you see those going?
Well, I think most of the specialty lines, I would say, are rates are going up double digit, and that's when you've got to be creative in how you structure the program. So complex property, casualty, D&O, E&O, the aviation sector, rates are now moving up there. I mean, some of that is being offset by the actual, because in aviation, in many sectors, actually volumes are down, so premium adjustments might be offsetting some of the increased rates, certainly for the next year. But I think the general trend is the market is tightening. Marine, energy, power, construction, you go through most of the sectors. There are areas like terrorism which isn't moving too much, but those areas are few and far between. And you know, I think the market has been soft for a long period of time. It was beginning to stabilize, and now it's hardening at quite a rate, and certainly in specialist lines. Now the other point, John, is this hard market gonna last for 5 years, as some people think? Is it going to be, you know, a year or 2 years? That's still a big unknown, and you know, that's got some way to play out. But certainly the environment is going to be challenging. I would say in 2021 and 2022. I think the market is going to continue to be in a state of flux.
Yes, that's interesting, isn't it? Because traditionally hard markets are very sharp up and very sharp down again, and they're usually, you know, reasonably brief. But I get the feeling, unless we actually fix the root problem, this market could be around for a while, which that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, yes. I'd like to think it'll find its level at some point where you know, rational thinking will come into play. You know, capital will come in just to curtail a market that just keeps hardening, because I think that's not good for anyone. I think a stable market is the sort of marketplace most clients like to see, where, you know, where the focus becomes more on, you know, getting good quality coverage at fair pricing, and you know, when there is a claim, that claim is paid properly by the marketplace.
Absolutely. I mean, volatility is the enemy of a finance director. We don't want it, you know, and this is volatility. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot here a bit at the moment. So I mean, obviously the market's very changeable and volatile at the moment. You know, and businesses need to be resilient. What about brokers?
Well, brokers, I think, need to be definitely resilient, and need to be, in my opinion, catalyst for change, because it's you know, it's a world that's changing dramatically. I think, first of all, if you look back again through the history books, go back to the last financial crisis around 08, 09, brokers are pretty resilient in terms of you know, the impact on their own businesses. And I think if you looked at the aggregate revenue growth or decline in the financial crisis of the publicly quoted global broking firms, it was literally down about 0.5 to 1% organic revenue decline on business. So brokers are typically recession-proof stocks, and that's because you know, insurance is not a discretionary spend the way consulting is a discretionary spend. You know, obviously some insurance placements are nice to have, some are legally required, but generally speaking, insurance is a requirement for vast majority of clients, either legally or because commercially it makes a huge amount of sense. I mean, when you think about resilience, I referenced earlier the fact that we were fortunate to have invested in cutting edge technology and being cloud-based and working with the Whitespace platform. You know, I think there are a number of broking firms in London who have underinvested in technology, who've got legacy systems still, who've paid lip service to the likes of PPL and electronic trading. And I think those type of firms need to get in the real world very quickly, because I can't for 1 minute think that that their operating platforms are resilient. And you know, and I think that that when you look to the future, any intermediary, you've actually got to reflect on the environment you're in, and going forward, it's really going to be important to have the combination of cutting edge technology and world-class talent. You know, that to me is a given. And then if you're a firm that is, especially if you're competing against, you know, what is going to be the big two in Marsh & McLennan and Aon, and as I've said, phenomenal institutions, absolutely world-class firms, you need to make damn sure you've got a value proposition, in my opinion, that truly resonates with clients, that actually clients are excited about supporting. Because, you know, the days of brokers having what I'd call lifestyle businesses, where they can, you know, they can just enjoy the fruits of their success working with clients, not worrying too much about the competitive dynamics or not worrying too much about the environment or technology. I think those days are rapidly coming to an end, and clients quite rightly are more demanding, and I think will be much more demanding of their brokers, especially through this period of profound change, both with COVID and with the insurance industry itself.
So much like the client's business, you know, it needs to be focused on the client, work out how it's different from everybody else, have a great strategy and deliver on it. So I think the same's true for the risk managers. The risk managers in our member companies need to really focus on what makes their company special, understand the strategy, align with that, work with the C-suite. And I think the risk managers need to make sure they're talking to the insurers, because the insurance they probably bought yesteryear may not be so relevant this year and next year, more importantly. So I think the tying up of the professions and working together and collaborating across the company is so important.
I think it's really great when you see risk management professionals who add value to their firms and are seen to be adding value to their firms by, you know, by doing many things to either manage or mitigate risks or bring capital to their firms, insurance capital, in ways that are very innovative, as distinct from insurance managers who are there just focused on not adding value, but just, you know, reducing cost. And I think the role of risk management professionals in the industry, especially at this inflection point in the industry, is really, really important, and the value they can bring to their own organizations is in my opinion phenomenal. And we're really excited about partnering up with risk management professionals to help them maximize that value for their firms over the long term.
Yeah, I mean, what boards need is joined up solutions, and I think to their problems, and I think risk managers have got a wonderful advantage over many people in the C-suite, because they can cut across the silos, they can work across the silos, and help actually deliver those joined up solutions for the board. Yeah. So, I mean, in my old world, I used to have a team of teams of different types of risk managers, from insurers through safety people, security, enterprise risk people, and I used to get them to work together. And then, but I used to say that's, you know, just having a team of teams isn't enough. Actually, you need to go beyond that and have team relationships with other teams, like the lawyers and the marketeers, the IT people. You know, so it becomes just a whole network of teams, and that's what we need. That's what boards need, and I think insurance has to play a key role in that.
And John, on that theme, when you think about relationships and networking, how do you think about risk managers building relationships virtually directly with their carrier partners, because I think that's a really important component.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sort of the straight line relationship between an insurance manager and the broker, gave way to the tripartite relationship, and really understanding that actually it's okay for the broker and the carrier to talk, but it's also okay for the client and the underwriter and the claims people in the insurance business to talk as well. In fact, it's vital, because they need to practice and rehearse claims and scenarios to understand what the policy really means, and do they need to alter the wording and all of that. And you've got to have relationships, because on the day of the races, when a big claim comes in, you really don't want it going straight over to the lawyers. You want to be able to have those relationships. You want to understand your policy in huge detail, and you want to have made sure you've adapted it to your business. So that's why you have these direct relationships. And of course, you take your broker with you, but it's not an exclusive club, And as you say, at the time of renewal, you really want to see the whites of the eyes of all your underwriters and understand where in the pecking order of life they live. Because if they're a junior underwriter, they're probably going to get overruled in this sort of market at the moment. So, yeah, I'm a great believer in you have to spend time on your relationships. And the good news, by the way, I think, is underwriters have never been more accessible, because they're all online doing Zoom,
Yeah.
And you can get to see them. Whereas perhaps in the past, it took half a day's work to go and see somebody. Now it's a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think actually the relationship has to move, and I've spoken at Lloyd's about this actually, the relationship has to move beyond even a tripartite relationship between the broker and the insurer. There's many other people we need to bring in to find solutions for this market, but more importantly, the risks that businesses are facing. So, it's kind of gone from a straight line between a buyer and a broker to a tripartite, a triangle, through to what I would call a round table relationship, where you've got IT professionals, risk financing professionals, all sitting round the table with the market players, advisors and brokers and insurers to find the solutions. Because the solutions today, have got to change. A lot of them aren't fit for purpose. Look at BI. We've changed our asset base, still tying BI to property. It's kind of like, no, we need to modify that. Businesses are cash dependent these days, much more than ever before. They haven't got the huge balance sheets, so we need insurance that pays out straight away, parametrics. So the whole thing's got to change. And so I think risk managers just got to embrace the future, understand the future, move towards it at pace, and understanding doing business the way you did it last year ain't going to work. So I'm a great one for embracing the future, embracing change. And I think you're a good example of that. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. I wish you well, and I hope the members give you a call, talk to you, discover what you can do, and I really hope we get the sort of cooperation and collaboration, not just straight, competing in the market, because I think we've got to work together to get to where we need to go.
Well, I think, John, I'm excited about building a British-based business at scale that's going globally. I'm very excited about our talent acquisition strategy, which is progressing incredibly well, and also the way our proposition is resonating with clients and carriers. But one of the things we're also as a firm really excited about is being a catalyst for change in the market. And you and I have had these conversations before. There's change that is required in the Lloyd's and London market in particular. John Neal is doing a great job, with the Lloyd's sort of blueprint, and and trying to push change. And we want to actually amplify and accelerate change, because we think it's good for the industry. And selfishly, I think the value proposition of the Lloyd's and London market needs to be improved, not just for clients here, but for clients all over the world, so that we see a market here that is continuing to grow at an accelerated rate, and at the end of the day, is an innovation hub for world-class insurance and risk financing solutions. Your comment about I really liked, going from a triangle to the circle, where you're all sort of sitting around the table as partners, trying to think through the right solutions. There's the greatest concentration of risk management expertise and capability in this country and in London, whether real or virtual now. We've got to harness that for the good of the economy here, and for the good of our clients and the good of this marketplace. And I'm really excited about what we might be able to do, partnering up with clients, partnering up with Lloyd's, and being a catalyst for change in the market, some of which is much needed.
I was very excited when I heard you'd got an office in Lloyd's, but I think it's exactly that sort of collaboration and actually co-creation is what's needed. And at Airmic Fest, it's just coming up now, we are going to measure on what is collaboration and co-creation, and run 2 panels actually on it, the 2 main panels, to try and explain to people how the behaviors change and how the relationships change. So I think that's a great point. And thank you. I feel like a disc jockey going from way into Airmic Fest from this interview. Steve, it's been great to see you and to have a chat, and hopefully the members have enjoyed the fireside chat, and hopefully we'll have many more of them. So thank you once again, and I wish you all the best, and I hope you are able to help some of the members through their very difficult challenges at the moment.
Great. Well, thanks again, John, for allowing me to participate, and I'm excited on behalf of McGill and Partners for being an Airmic member, and if anyone of the Airmic members wants some official or unofficial advice, they certainly can feel free to reach out to us.
Good man. Thank you very much, Steve. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.